third thing we're looking forward to for the second half of the season is the play-in tournament for the Western Conference. Now, the play-in tournament as a whole, it's grown on me. I don't know, it's grown on. I like
still
the
not
fact that the bottom 6 teams are not just not doing anything for the rest of the season. Like I like the fact that there's actually incentive to play for something, because I don't like the fact that when teams, it's just like.
But one game to decide it all, like it's
I
one
get that,
game.
but at the same time, it's like, bro, you gotta win. Like, no matter what, if you say you're that good of a team, if you're a playoff team, you gotta win. So prove it, right? So it's kind of grown on me. Now, again, the play-in tournament for the Eastern Conference is cool, but to be honest, I don't think any of us expect the Nets to be the 8th seed going into the play-in tournament.
Well, I mean, it could happen.
It could happen, but realistically, I think we all expect them to jump up a bit. And if the Nets are not there, then I think the play-in tournament, the interest level around the play-in tournament for the Eastern Conference definitely drops significantly without the Nets being there.
The most likely case would be either Boston or Toronto coming out of that. Yeah, just because I don't see Charlotte, or I don't know who's behind them. Atlanta, becoming a significant challenge.
Yeah, so basically the play-in tournament for this season, I think, is really geared for the Western Conference, where you have a bunch of great teams, a lot of great storylines, all competing for basically 2 spots in the playoffs. And especially in such a wide open league this season, where there's no clear-cut champions or clear-cut number 1 in the league. This definitely makes things really interesting. So starting off with the 7th-seeded Timberwolves, they're just basically looking to capitalize on the rebuild, to see the fruits of their labor of the rebuild, and make their second playoffs in what seems like forever. I think them making the playoffs this season would be even better than them making the playoffs in the 2018 season.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact that this team was built as a whole more organically than that 2018 team, where you had like Jimmy Butler, you brought in Taj Gibson.
And no Tibbs.
Exactly. And, this team as a whole, I think, was built more organically with Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards leading this team.
And shout out Chris Finch. He's done a great job in terms of coaching up this team. Like now I watched the Timberwolves, the other night, and, they look like a more cohesive team. Like they're playing through Karl-Anthony Towns, by the way, is having a fantastic season. He's what a player. But even guys like Anthony Edwards, again, D'Angelo Russell's kind of found a role. The McDaniel, one of the McDaniel twins, he's playing well. Like they have some players now, and they're all kind of playing together as a collective. So it's all coming together. So shout out.
And they're playing on both sides of the floor. The floor, right? Chris Finch has them, especially when he inserted guys like Patrick Beverley and Jared Vanderbilt into the lineup. You really saw a complete team. And so the Wolves, I think that would be a very feel-good story for them to make the playoffs. And with the way they've been playing and the record right now, I think they could definitely make it into the playoffs, barring the fact that they don't just collapse at the end of the season. The 8th seed right now is the Los Angeles Clippers, and they're just a very interesting team because of the fact that they're doing all of this without their top 2 players in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. However, they do have a very good overall team, right? You have a bunch of good players, good role players in Reggie Jackson, who's really revived his career.
Bobby Schmurda's back.
Bobby Schmurda. Luke Kennard. Nicholas Batum basically became an NBA player again after he went to LA. Terrence Mann. They just have a very good collection of role players, and then they added guys like Robert Covington and Norman Powell, who hopefully, if he gets healthy, can contribute to that as well. So the long-term outlook of this team moving forward into next season is very good. But for this season, it could really be interesting for this team because they could definitely make some noise in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers, you said it, like no Kawhi Leonard, no Paul George. Everyone just thought that immediately just means that they're going to fall off the face of the earth. But they're actually staying afloat, and they're actually being competitive and staying competitive into some of these games, which is why, like, getting a guy like Norman Powell and Robert Covington made a ton of sense, because now, even without Kawhi, you can still remain competitive. Then when you add Kawhi into that, well, now you basically vault yourself up revault yourself back up into championship status. So the Clippers, what they're doing, what they're building, definitely has been better than the last couple of years of the Clippers teams, to be honest with you, because now they have some of that Tobias Harris and era of Clippers where they all kind of play together as one.
I think it's just about like everyone's found the role, right? Mm-hmm. Paul George mainly just kind of struggled with that in his first couple of seasons. he's kind of found his role, even though he isn't playing right now. The rest of the guys have kind of followed suit, right? So I think this is a very interesting team overall. I have to give a shout to Tyronn Lue because we've gave him a lot of crap over the years, right, for his coaching. So when he's actually doing a good job, I need to do the same, right? I need to give him a shout out for that.
Yeah.
The ninth seed is everyone's favorite team, the most popular team in the league, the most controversial team in the league.
The retirement home.
The Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the play-in tournament is basically going to revolve around the Los Angeles Lakers.
Again.
It's been a rough season with all the injuries, just bad play on both sides of the court, not having good offense, doing nothing on the defensive end. AD always disabled, is once again out for a month with the ankle injury. So, I mean, hopefully he gets better. No hate there, but, like, bro, this guy's always injured.
Bro, right? It's like, can he stay healthy? Honestly, and I don't even know if we're going to talk about Zion later, but can these guys stay on the court, get on the court, and actually stay on the court? I just want to ask that.
Again, like you said, this is what happens when you have a retirement home. Guys get injured, unfortunately. Will Russell Westbrook play better? He's played better as of late. But it's just not being a good season.
2K dropped his rating to a 79. It's not looking good for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, so like I don't even think anybody can say for sure whether or not the Lakers will get into the playoffs because nobody knows at this rate with how they've been playing.
LeBron's been playing at an MVP level, to be honest with you, and the way he's been carrying the team. But again, he can't just keep carrying this team and dragging this retirement home of guys who always gets injured, not consistent. He can't keep doing this. At year 19, like this is not what he's supposed to be doing. So I don't even know how Adam Silver kind of planned this, and that LeBron's on back-to-back play-in tournaments. But hey, you go.
He helps the ratings.
He
for
does
sure.
help the ratings.
Listen, if the Lakers make the playoffs, it's going to be because of one LeBron James, basically.
Pretty much. Or Melo hitting a clutch 3.
Yeah, maybe. But again, that's kind of the problem, right? Melo's being good for them offensively, but defensively, like, bro, you could just make a whole montage of, like, just low lights of Melo and Westbrook both. It's been bad. And again, if they miss the playoffs, cue the 5 weeks of memes, of Lakers memes, right? Like, it would be brutal for Lakers players.
Definitely one of the most disappointing teams to ever be assembled.
Again, Carmelo Anthony said it, right? He said it best. If they fail, it's because of them. It's on them because they are a group of veteran players who have stuck in this league for a long time and who have all experienced winning and know how it feels to win, at least, a significant amount of games. So if they fail, this is on them. Like, you can't blame anybody else because, again, this is a group of veterans. Speaking of the Portland Trailblazers, they've also been better as of late, especially, after the trade deadline. And that has to do with one Anthony Simons. Like, this guy's been on fire. And, again, you could see this coming because every time Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum have been out over the years, Anthony Simons has gone completely crazy. And he's doing it again. I think he already set a three-point record for, how many three-pointers he's made in the number of games that he's played. Like, Anthony Simons is just going crazy. He's vaulted himself into MIP status. And again, if you see Damian Lillard come back, or even without Damian Lillard, with how everything is going on, and like you mentioned, it's a knockout style game, right? The play-in tournament is 1 or 2 games max. And so for the Portland Trailblazers, even though they don't have the best team, give them 1 or 2 games, they could definitely beat somebody.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what the Blazers are. I guess that's the one silver lining of the season, where a young player like Anthony Simons is kind of being able to break out amongst all the chaos, and they're at least staying afloat relatively because of the play-in situation. Now, is this the long-term look for the Portland Trailblazers? Absolutely not. But if you take some of the good that they're doing this season, and if they potentially make the playoffs, then Damian Lillard has a different conversation in the offseason. It definitely can turn into something interesting.
Yeah, and then finally, we're going to talk about the New Orleans Pelicans and their status in this Western Conference play-in tournament. They traded for CJ McCollum, so they're officially looking to win now, at least a little bit.
Thank God. It's been a while.
They have a legitimate team without Zion Williamson. You're talking about CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, Herb Jones was being really good for
he's a good player.
He's good, man.
Who's that guy? Jose Alvarado.
Jose Alvarado.
Yo, this guy's
Basically,
sick.
everyone likes this guy. Like everyone's favorite player at this rate. But again, they have a legitimate team, and give them 1 or 2 games to get into the playoffs. They could definitely make the playoffs. Especially we know CJ McCollum and his ability to perform in big time games. So the Pelicans,
CJ and Bi are just they look like a good pairing together. They fit really well together. I that's what like the biggest takeaway I had for the Pelicans is that they finally made a legitimate move to move them forward. They're not just staying still, which again, I'm still questioning whether or not Zion can or will ever be able to play basketball. I'm starting to think this is Greg.
apparently he's gonna have another surgery.
Yeah, I think this is Greg Oden 2.0, to be honest with you. Like, the guy just cannot get onto the court without getting hurt. Like, how many setbacks are you going to have? Or what is his injury? Like, does anyone know what his injury is? We don't know.
Nope.
So, he's going through another surgery. So, at this point, I would just say the Pelicans just build around CJ and Bi at this point.
Well, I mean, CJ's older, so... But you can definitely flip them. Like, the Pelicans have options. It's not great right now, but they have options. And the important thing is that they remain competitive. You never want a young team to just be bad straight up, because that doesn't build winning habits. That doesn't build a winning culture, right? And we know teams like Sacramento, Minnesota until this year, basically. Like, these teams have been bad for a long time just because they've been trying to tank straight up. And that doesn't work. You're not going to just randomly become good unless you get a draft pick like LeBron James, right? That's the only time tanking will really work. Otherwise, you have to build a culture, develop winning habits for your team to have any chance of prosperity. So the New Orleans Pelicans, again, they could definitely make some noise in this year's play-in tournament.